Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I am your host, Jeff Howard, and I have two people with me in person, by the way. I didn't make a big deal out of that last time, but we are sitting in the same room instead of being on Zoom. So I have Matt Kic and Mike Sorce. Hey, you two.
Hello.
All right, so the voice of Mike sounds like
this.
And the voice of Matt sounds like...
I'm Matt.
Yeah. I know, I'm not sure the word this is enough, but
that's all they're getting.
I was thinking that wasn't enough, Mike.
That wasn't enough. But if you want to learn all about these two, because their film Manifesto was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2023, and it took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Screenplay for a short film drama, and it took home the Filmmakers Award. That's from the Filmmakers jury. That's all alumni. It got Outstanding Short Film Drama. So, golf clap, bravo for Manifesto.
2023 already?
Yeah,
Whoa.
I know.
Yeah.
Where does the time go?
It was a year and 2 months ago that you were in that theater.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Enjoying your film with a packed house in, I believe that was the 95-seater, Theater 7 at the Look Cinemas in Glendale. Beautiful.
Great theater.
Oh, yeah.
That screen is... And your film looked fantastic on there.
Thank you.
For people who want to learn more about the film, and they can watch it on Amuleto, there will be a clickable link. Watch Manifesto, enjoy it. Listen to the podcast before this one that was basically an interview with these two all about their lives and career and Manifesto and where they're headed. This podcast is a 4 questions podcast, which means they're going to take turns answering the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which are name 3 favorite films, name an underrated film, name an overrated film, and name a lesser-known film for people to seek out. It's really just a fun way to just talk about movies. And, the original idea was it would be the tag at the end of a podcast, but I'm just too chatty. So that, if this came at the end of the interview, then it'd be like a 2.5-hour thing, and that's a lot to ask.
Oh, for sure. We can get very easily sidetracked as well. So,
all right, so who wants to name 3 favorite films first?
I went first last time. So
Did you? I was thinking I did. Well,
all right, I'll go first
All
again
right,
then.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to make this quick. Well, not too quick. I can't follow any... When asked for 3 favorites, I can't just give 3. So I've divided this.
This is actually a good illustration of our differences, too, because I had to follow the rules because that's just who I am.
Yeah, down with the rules. So, number 1... And I picked things that reflect Mike and I's influences and a philosophy / approach to writing. So, first, we do a lot of sci-fi, so I had to pick a sci-fi movie. And we're extremely, as we discussed in the last podcast, structure, enthusiasts. We're strong, we believe that a movie must have an extremely solid structure. Not necessarily in a classical way, but... So, the 2 greatest sci-fi movies with the greatest structure that I could think of are Back to the Future and then The Matrix. So, they're just great movies. And Mike knows I reference The Matrix regardless of what genre movie we're writing.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Back to the Future. We could be writing, I think, even in Manifesto, when we were coming up with the short, we referenced Back to the Future of like planting and seeding things.
Back to the Future is amazing. They're both amazing.
Yeah.
And they're both perfect stories, perfect story structure, perfect films, really. And I'm just going to point out that I already brought up Zemeckis, and I forgot that Back to the Future was on your list.
That's right.
Yep.
We are big fans of Robert Zemeckis for sure. And I think here is a little underrated too. I'll go out on a limb and say it.
My understanding, too, I know somebody who was an assistant on Forrest Gump, actually, and said that the one of the geniuses of Zemeckis is he's a screenwriter, and he rewrites every film and does not take credit.
Yep.
Wow.
Which is... Not everyone does that.
I know some people that know him, and I've heard good things. I don't know him personally. We have several connections. One day, hopefully, we'll all be hanging out.
He'll always be a legend.
Yes.
Well, he'll try to talk to you two because, his time has passed. So he'll be like, "Hey, I need some of your juice. You guys are the big shots. I can't get hired in this town."
Well,
He still gets
that'll be the
movies
day.
made.
I know.
Okay, so second, we're big on plot twists, Mike and I, and just a plot that is always evolving in unexpected ways. So my two, twisty plot films that I think are brilliant are The Prestige, which is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, and then I said this on the last podcast too, but Mulholland Drive. So R.I.P. to David Lynch, who has since passed away.
Yeah, man.
And so much has happened.
Yeah, isn't it weird how much has happened in 2 months?
I know, insane.
That was a tough one, too. When I saw the news that David Lynch passed, I was like, oh, fuck.
Mike and I were both sent a sad text to each other. So
Yeah.
Mike's catching up on some David Lynch movies he hasn't seen, too.
Yeah, it inspired me to be like, all right, I got to close the loop on some of these.
Well, have you watched the one the short he made for Netflix?
With the monkey?
With the monkey?
Of course, yeah. What Would Jack Do, I think is what it's called.
What did Jack do?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've seen all his movies, but I have not seen that. So
I think that's one of the greatest things he ever did.
It's pretty great.
And
I might go home and watch it, actually.
And he is one of the best actors ever and one of the funniest humans. I love that he was actually funny.
Yeah.
All right, you got
a
two
great sense of
more.
humor.
There's
Okay.
2 more coming.
And then lastly, I said Mike and I do a lot of sci-fi. We also do a lot of love story stuff, and we even love just a straight love story. And my two biggest influences there are 500 Days of Summer, just absolutely brilliant script, and that was definitely an example of two guys who wrote a brilliant script that went on to a very successful career solely because of that movie, and they've written a bunch of other great movies. And then Before Sunrise, I just got to give a shout out to Richard Linklater. I went to school in Austin. He's an Austin guy. He would just pop into classes sometimes, as would Robert Rodriguez. So he's always been a huge influence, and that's my favorite of the trilogy.
And they're all great. They're all great. 500 Days of Summer is such a great film.
Actually, Before Sunset might be my favorite, but you can't have Before Sunset without Before Sunrise.
It's true.
Before Midnight, some people like to go, that's the best one because it's the most realistic. That's not what I
think
I didn't sign in for that.
I know we're not here to critique, but I think that betrays her character, that movie. Mm-hmm. She is so irritating and like keeping the conflict going when it shouldn't be. I enjoy it, but Before Midnight I find very...
Well, I hear they're making the fourth one, so...
Oh, God, I hope so.
Hopefully it's,
Before
more pleasant
Dawn?
again. Yeah, I guess. We'll see. Anyway, so I'll pass it to Mike now.
All right. Well, I now that we're redoing this, I am able to frame it more in the way Matt did, because last time I was just like, these are my favorite movies, and was not, taking into account our partnership and our writing. And I like the way that Matt framed it and did that. So number one, I think, in regards to how important character work and defining big characters are to us, Breakfast Club is a movie that has meant a lot to me, that I think even today still reflects accurately the big emotions and feelings of being a teenager and how hard it can be. And it's such an accomplishment. That's the type, talking about, $15,000 features. That's the type of movie you could make for very, very cheap now, 5 kids in one room.
Daytime.
Yeah. But it's just done. It hits so hard. I love it so much. Now, last time I also had Back to the Future on my list, but I'm going to pivot. Matt got to do all his movies, and he already mentioned it. So in another thing that we do a lot of, especially recently in the past few years, as we've tried to be more commercial, is like action thriller type of movie. And for me, the most perfect one is Die Hard.
Good choice.
And I think the screenplay is flawless. Amazing producing. Bruce Willis is never better, as one of the best movie villains of all time too. And basically created its genre, and it's one of those movies that people reference now, like a very classic pitch will be like, Die Hard in a submarine, Die Hard in the White House. Like, it's like, it is a genre of its own. It has become defining.
Well, and it's now been revived by Carry On.
Yes. Yeah. Carry On. Die Hard in an airport,
yes.
Which they already did Die Hard 2, but
Yeah.
Well, and I was
Die
almost...
Hard in the airport again.
Yeah.
I was almost going to add what you said, which is that Die Hard did become like, it's just shorthand.
Yes, it
Shorthand.
really is. And I remember for a long time when we were trying to come up with something, in one of our phases of what's the next idea, I just kept saying these 4 words to Matt: Die Hard in space. And never quite figured out what I meant by that. And we never did write something like that, but someone will do it, I'm sure.
I think it's called Alien. But no, I can't. but I want to add, because you mentioned the villain, I just learned crazy trivia since I last saw you two, which is that was Alan Rickman's first gig ever in the USA.
Wow, I
He
didn't
had
realize
made
that.
British films, and he'd worked in England.
Yeah.
That's actually, he nearly got some massive role that we would all know, but he didn't get it, and then he got Die Hard right after that.
Incredible.
And that's why we know who Alan Rickman is.
Wow.
Before that, it was just Truly, Madly, Deeply, I guess.
Yeah. I watched that not too long ago because we were writing something that was kind of similar. That's a really interesting film.
Yeah. But I can't believe that, like, the way Alan Rickman tore apart that. I mean, he chewed that movie up, and he was...
It's always
So
cool
good.
to see someone getting that type of opportunity and just completely nailing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, and lastly, I think we often go to a lot of dark places, and no matter what the subject material, we always approach it with bringing some levity or lightness or hope in the end. Some amount of joy has to be in there still, And the thing, I have to be true to myself, the thing that gives me the most joy is Pitch Perfect. I've seen it a million times. I love it so much. It even references my other favorite movie, Breakfast Club, is a pivotal plot point in the film. It was a very important film for my wife and I early in our dating. I just love it so much. So that's that.
Yeah, and I think I said it last time. I love that you choose it, because that's the spirit of the question isn't name the 3 best films ever made. It's name 3 favorites. And Pitch Perfect is so enjoyable.
Yes.
And I love that you love it.
Thank you. I was able, during the strike, I met the film's writer on the picket lines, and I was gushing to her, and I was very starstruck. So that was a cool moment for me during the strike.
Excellent. Just because I said this last time, I'm pretty sure I said it last time. I don't know if you both remember that I saw Breakfast Club and I saw Back to the Future at the Canoga Drive-In in high school in the San Fernando Valley. I saw it as a drive-in movie, like 4 or 5 dudes in a hatchback at the drive-in. That's how I saw those
That
two
is very
films
cool.
when they
Incredible
first
way to
came
see
out.
those movies.
And talk about. And one thing people don't realize with the drive-in is it was actually like the closest thing we had to IMAX back then.
Right.
Because it was a way bigger screen.
Yeah.
And you'd park close because you were a cinephile bunch of teenagers instead of, needless to say, we weren't doing what you're supposed to do at the drive-in.
That means that you were doing what you were supposed to at the time.
Yeah, we were watching a film. Yeah. None of us were dating at that point. I think in fairness, I was the one guy who had a girlfriend, but she was understanding that I wanted to be with the boys now and then.
Of course.
Anyway, all right, I had to mention the drive-in experience for those 2 films.
All right. Matt?
Oh, is it back to me then?
It is for an underrated
Okay,
film.
underrated. So my choice for underrated is, well, Mike and I love comedy as well, even though we haven't written any straight comedies. But my underrated movie is Walk Hard, the story of Dewey Cox. But that is not necessarily underrated by the film-going community. But it's too little seen, first of all. And even a lot of people that love it are like kind of deride it as being very funny, but like a dumb comedy. But I actually think it's a brilliant movie that also somehow is a satire of all the movies that came after it as well.
Even all the way up to A Complete Unknown.
Which I liked, but still, I mean, there's Walk Hard movies in all these movies. Even in, we just wrote a music biopic, and there is one scene where I was like, this is totally this is a really dark fucking period scene. I was like, it can't be avoided. But anyway, so I think it's very brilliant in that regard. It's actually very touching in moments, and the music is absolutely truly incredible. It's the songwriter that wrote all the songs for it, and to do them all and so many different genres and match their time, and it's just a massive amount of work by a lot of very talented people went into the movie, and I think that it doesn't get as much love as it should.
Well, and because it's funny, right? Like John C. Reilly and Kristen Wiig are two of the most talented people in the world.
Yes.
They're not walking around. Well, she's not getting Oscars. He doesn't get credit. He gets credit for being funny, but he's only going to be nominated for the dramas. He's never going to get a nomination for when he's the funniest human being alive.
Oh, my wife thinks he's one of the most talented people in the world.
Comedy never gets its roses all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad you picked it up.
All right,
Mike.
So for me, all right, this movie does have 2 sequels and has reignited a franchise, but I don't think it gets enough credit for being a legitimately great film, which is Creed. Not only did it reinvent a whole franchise that had essentially died, but it's like the perfect illustration of a filmmaker coming into a situation that is very common now, but isn't ideal, right? You have to do a legacy sequel. That's what they all do now. Twisters, which I had fun with. And, that's all they make now, right? But he made it his own, made it, be its own thing. I think it's better than all the Rocky movies. I'll say it. I think it's better than the first Rocky. And I actually think it's one of like the best directed movies ever, but particularly sports movies. The boxing scenes are so dynamic and exciting, and I'm not someone who even cares about boxing. I don't. It's not my thing, and it's just so well done. Michael B. Jordan is yoked as hell. He's crazy to look at. He looks inhuman, and it's just the best.
I don't know why, but I just feel like being a little woke too, and saying that in a lot of ways, I think Creed made up for the subtle racism that was always in the Rocky films. Maybe it wasn't
Apollo,
subtle.
yeah.
Well, Rocky was really about white people beating up black people.
Right.
Am I wrong? I mean, the first film.
That's why it's so beloved in Philadelphia.
I mean, the first film. I mean, obviously, I don't really have a leg to stand on here. But I mean, the first film was about they just grabbed a white guy out of his obscurity to just be a white hope, and then he loses, and that was fine. But then when he started winning,
Right.
I think it was very white power-ish.
Yeah.
And Creed, instead of just making another Rocky sequel, it was a brilliant. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. It flipped it. And, Rocky's not even in the third one. It's evolved past even, Rocky himself to kind of be its own thing now.
I will back Mike up that he's always talking about Creed. So
I love it so
he's
much.
not faking his fandom.
And if you're traveling anytime, it's always on the plane. For whatever reason, it is always one of the options. I watch it every time I'm on a plane. So if you're headed to a plane soon, make it the time to watch Creed.
And wear a mask. I'm sorry. You always get colds when you fly. Sorry. Unrelated. Creed. Excellent. All right. Well, those are that. And surely you're right about underrated. Because even though it's popular, it's not, I don't think it gets the respect it deserves as cinema.
Exactly. Similar to what Matt was saying with Walk Hard. It's like, I think people do like it, and obviously it was successful, but yeah, I don't feel like it's talked about in the way that it should be talked about.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well,
Matt.
now you get to do overrated.
All right, overrated. Jeff, if you remember, we agree about this one. The most overrated movie of all time is E.T. I don't even really know what I don't even really know what I don't like about it. It's just I don't mess with E.T.
Man, I haven't seen it recently enough to disagree with you or agree with you. I will stay neutral.
And in film going circles and whatnot, people always just say they mention E.T. like we already agree that we love E.T. And I never said that I liked E.T. So I don't like people assuming that I actually like it.
Sometimes I do wonder what movies that are coming out now are going to be those in 10 years where everyone's like, oh, but we all liked Here by Robert Zemeckis. Not to dunk on that or anything. I haven't seen it yet. But, you know, it is funny to think, like, surely there are movies now that people didn't like that we're going to suddenly all be like, oh, yeah, we like that.
Oh, yeah, that happens. Oh, and then, but I had a backup choice, which was for, in our circles Mike and I run in, I feel like people that are like really into horror always think Audition by Takashi Miike is this great masterpiece of horror, and I don't really know about that.
I'm 100% with you. I am a big horror fan, and that one doesn't really work for
I
me.
love horror. It's just it's not really a horror movie, first of all.
Yeah.
And you know, Takashi Miike's made like 500 movies.
Yeah.
And this is the one that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about 13 Assassins.
Yes.
Well, and I totally back you up, even though I don't have an opinion on it, but I back you up on that because that's one of my things is when everyone gravitates around an artist's lesser work, and you're like, wait a minute, you should love their other work more. Like, that's how I feel about some Coen Brothers movies, to be honest. I think they're my favorite filmmaker. They're among my favorites of all time. But, like, they'll win an Oscar for a film that's not even in my top 5 Coen Brothers films.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how come Miller's Crossing didn't get jack squat? And
I completely agree. And you know what? Actually, no. And I'm going to go even further with this.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree with you.
Oh, yeah. The people are giving Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh.
I don't like that There Will Be Blood is his calling card because I'm a way bigger fan of Boogie Nights and Magnolia. And that There Will Be Blood was the turning point, and that's the one that you have to reference.
It doesn't feel as much like a piece with his other films either. It kind of feels like a one-off.
Well, no, I mean, that was the shift, though. Well,
yeah, then he started getting more period piece, more historical. But
obviously, Licorice Pizza was a deviation from that. Look, I still like Paul Thomas Anderson, but those first two movies.
We're not saying he's bad. You're not, and you're not saying There Will Be Blood is not a great. By the way, There Will Be Blood might be my favorite, but you're not saying.
And that's okay.
But you're not saying it's a bad film. You're saying, you know what? Don't snooze on the earlier stuff, especially Magnolia.
Oh yeah. Sometimes people like to be like, Punch Drunk Love's my favorite, though. Like, no, it isn't.
No, but it's good. It's fun.
Of course, they're all good.
They're all good.
Oh, except I think Mike is a Licorice Pizza hater.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I love movies when an adult woman bangs a 15-year-old, and we're supposed to cheer for that. I really like that.
Yeah, I was
God,
not
this conversation
allowed to
is taking
see
a
it.
shift.
I haven't seen it because my wife saw it without me, and that means I don't ever get to see it unless she says it's good enough to watch again, and she's like, it's definitely not good enough to watch again, according to her. But I want to back you up on E.T. for a second because I did last time when we were, and which is, you know, I had the experience of watching a ton of cinema over again with a kid, and she's now 17, but we watched E.T. when she was probably 9 or 10 and couldn't get through it.
Wow.
Like
the pacing of older films, I think, for kids now is
but
like...
also just the story's not... so I know so many people that's their favorite film of all time, because if you saw it as a child, it was really the first time the alien presence was positive instead of negative, and it was very groundbreaking and blah, blah, blah. But as a film, it is not one of Spielberg's best. Yeah. That's all I got to say. He made some other films that I consider better.
We're in agreement.
Yeah. Wow. And my apologies to the people who love it.
Yeah. To smuggle more in there, I think Matt and I are in agreement that our favorite Spielberg era is the AI Minority Report era. We're big fans of both of those films.
War of the Worlds is great too.
Yeah.
He was cooking in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I like to offend people by claiming that his best film ever is Ready Player One.
You know,
I
don't agree with that, but I do. I think Mike and I saw it together, and we both loved it.
Yeah.
For me, it's Munich, actually, but
Munich is great too?
I dislike most Spielberg films. No, for me, but
Everyone
my understanding
needs their haters.
is he doesn't really need me to be a fan. I think he's doing all right.
Yeah.
With the 99% of the world that loves his work.
Probably
I agree with Mike. Everybody needs haters, and going back to our previous podcast, it was just like when I made my first Hollywood enemy. I thought it was a time to celebrate, because you can't get anywhere without ruffling a few feathers. So
yeah, so you would actually love a bad review of Manifesto in a way. If someone went on YouTube and said, "Here's what I hate about it," you'd be like, "Golf clap, bravo."
Sure.
I remember
As long as the majority is not hating.
French filmmaker Gaspar Noé, when Climax came out, it had like a 60 or 65 on Rotten Tomatoes, and he was very upset that it was that high. He was like, "That's too many people being into what I'm doing."
Though I do like Climax.
It's very disturbing. All right. So, but there's a little more dated than last time we recorded this, but I'm sticking with it, which is, I think we have let one of our best living writers off the hook, and we have praised mediocre work, and I'm talking about Trap. Trap is nonsense. It is terrible. And the amount of people rallying behind it and being so excited and saying, Shyamalan did it. No, he didn't. He made one of the greatest films ever made, The Sixth Sense, and now we just allow him to put out this slop and pretend that it's good, and it drives me insane. We know what he's capable of. We know what he can do.
I mean, but Trap is rotten, though.
No, but the people like
That's true.
Trap.
Okay.
The people love Trap.
I guess you're right.
The people have embraced the fun. I'm sick of this. I don't like this attitude. Maybe I'm being very serious film bro here. I hate the but it was entertaining to watch. No, it was bad. It was badly made and badly done. I'm being a lot more negative than I was last time, which I don't like. I don't like to be negative, so I apologize.
Yeah, but what you're doing is you're saying that someone whose work you respect,
Yes,
like crazy, and you're saying he is so talented. How'd this one slip through? And then why did people love it?
yeah, and he's had a lot of ones that have slipped through, but I think that's what is bothering me is like the other ones where we're all like, all right, you didn't do it this time, M. Night, but this one, I know a lot of people who are being like, he did it. No, he did not.
Interesting. I'm just going to throw Old onto my underrated movies list because I thought Old was great.
And that was the one he did where everyone gets old fast on some beach. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to see it, but I really want to.
Watch it. It's good.
I generally like. I think the trilogy, the way he completed the trilogy of
Unbreakable.
I just thought that ended up being the best trilogy. I just love those films.
Yeah.
I can't even name the
He can
next two.
do it, you know?
Yeah.
That's
So
what
it's Unbreakable, Split, and Glass.
Yes.
Yes.
I've never seen Glass, so I can't make
Me
an
neither.
opinion.
Oh, I love all three together.
Now I want to see Glass.
Yeah. All right. He's a very
Last
talented
one.
person.
Oh,
yeah, last
last one.
one is lesser known for people to seek out.
So this one reflects stuff that Mike and I like and do, and we love thrillers. This goes into Manifesto territory. We love thrillers about someone desperately trying to not get caught or have the consequences of something catch up to them. And I love that feeling in movies. So Fargo and Good Time, Simple Plan, these are all favorites of this particular subgenre. But one that's a little underrated that they played on, it's like Showtime or HBO or something all the time when I was like 13 years old, is the Larry Clark movie Bully from 2001. I think Jeff, we agreed that this was a pretty good movie. I think it paved the way for a lot of Safdie Bros kind of stuff. And I just think it's an absolutely great movie.
And right on cue, like a huge fan of Bully just walked into the room.
Hello.
My wife just walked in. She loves the film Bully. Loves it. Especially the soundtrack,
Ah, yes.
right? Great music in there.
Oh, yeah.
You're a music guy.
Yes, that's true.
In the time since we recorded last, I watched it actually, and it is great.
Well, they really nailed that like scary, psychopathic Florida vibe.
Yes, and I feel like a lot of people have had that friend
Yes.
too, who is not really your friend.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Well, I know it's not. It's a dark film, but I do love films where murder is justified.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I love a dark comedy. I love if you can make, because death is such a big fucking deal. Like that our lives are so temporary, and so I actually love when cinema treats death that way.
I
agree.
think too, maybe the first person ever to relate that film to The Breakfast Club. But the other thing that it gets so right about being a teenager is like not really seeing the consequences of something and just going along with what your friends are
Totally.
doing, you know?
I agree with that.
And the way it, I won't spoil the movie, the way it shows the consequences at the end was horrifying to me.
Yeah.
Am I wrong that it's based on a true story?
Oh, yes.
It's based on a true story. Yeah.
So,
Now
yeah.
you got me thinking that Breakfast Club should have ended with like them all stabbing the janitor to death together or something.
maybe when they
Dark
reboot
version
it,
of Breakfast Club does sound cool.
it exists. It's called One of Us is Lying. And it's,
Isn't that a show?
sorry to be a hater, really bad. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
book that got turned into a show.
Gotcha.
But
So
the
it still
premise
could be
basically
done.
is Breakfast Club, but one of them dies.
Gotcha.
And who did it? But it's bad.
Okay. Well,
I haven't seen the show. The book really annoyed me. Anyway, I will close us out. My lesser known film is one of my favorite films that I feel like usually no one has heard of when I mention it. But there's this Canadian writer director named Xavier Dolan who I really love, and he made a film called Mommy back in 2012, which is a really really great French language Canadian film. About a troubled youth and his single mother and their struggle to coexist. It's kind of one of the low concept films I was talking about earlier, but executed perfectly. And that's how you got to do it if you're going to do something with such a common concept, I guess I would say.
And since Mike watched my underrated movie, now I have to go home and watch his. So
Love it.
I haven't seen it. Now I got to see it.
It is filmed, I will say, here, I don't know if this is a selling point, but the unique thing about it is it is shot in iPhone ratio. So it's an aspect ratio, the tall,
The vertical.
yes, vertical.
Ooh.
Yes. So it is
Never
not,
pitched that part of it to me.
not an aspect ratio I've seen another film employ. And it's done to very cool effect in the film, is what I'll say. So it's a great one. And he has a bunch of, you can go down a rabbit hole with him too if you like that. He has a lot of other films. He was a prolific young filmmaker who went to Cannes like 6 times in a row. He makes a lot of movies.
I have something unimportant to add, which is I discovered during COVID just how good the cinema is out of Quebec
Yes.
and TV. We generally snooze on foreign language stuff in the USA, but the best procedural TV show I've ever seen is set out of Montreal and came out of the CBC. And
Wow.
fuck, I'm forgetting the title. But the Letterkenny guy was in it.
Oh,
guy-
yes.
Mike loves Letterkenny.
I do. I know what show you're talking about. I haven't seen it.
I'm forgetting. We're huge like we've watched every episode of
Yeah.
Letterkenny a dozen times. We have a problem.
Did you did you
Jared-
see Red Rooms then?
Red Rooms was a great film
Yeah, that's
this
a-
past year out of Quebec. A David Fincher-esque thriller. That,
Mike had a party to make us all watch it the other day, and it was great.
Yes.
See, and yeah. So as a Letterkenny fan, I watched this thing that came before it that a lot of the Letterkenny cast is in. 'Cause
Yeah.
he just pulled friends from. I should just look it up. Jared Kiso.
Jared Kiso, yeah.
Yeah.
He is in one of Xavier Dolan's films. Unfortunately, it's one of his lesser films, but he is there.
I should look it up, but anyway, people can look it up. But we're just watching it, and I kept bitching to my wife. I'm like, how come the best cop show ever is out of Montreal? Why couldn't one of the big American cities have?
Right.
It's funny. It's just better.
Is it called 19-2?
It is 19-2.
Yes.
Nice.
That's the name of their squad car, I believe, or that's the name of their precinct, something like that.
Oh, there we go.
But it is.
Matt's on research.
Yes.
It is superb. Thank you for looking it up, man.
Of course.
All right. Well, hey,
Cool.
We did it.
We did what we set out to accomplish
Twice.
twice, and I will get us the f out of here by saying, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Matt. Thank you both. Thank you, Matt Kic and Mike Sorce.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just love saying your names.
Wonderful.
I'm a very petty man. Thank you for listening to the Discover Indie Film Podcast. If you want to learn more about it, go to discoverindiefilm.com. Oh yeah, like and subscribe. Do that kind of shit. Be kind. Just put it at the very bottom of your podcast app where you won't see all the updates. But, subscribe to it. Be nice. And write reviews of it. And if you're really into indie film, go to Amazon Prime Video and type in Discover Indie Film and see what you see. You have to pay for it now because Amazon did their indie purge where they don't let independent stuff be included with Prime. But there's 7 seasons, 10 episodes each of just stuff from the festival circuit. So check it out. We mentioned that Matt and Mike's film Manifesto was at Sherman Oaks Film Festival. We hold that every December. Just go to ShermanOaksFF.com or at ShermanOaksFF on social media. Its sister festival every June is Film Invasion Los Angeles. You can learn about that at filminvasionla.com or it's at filminvasionla on social media. Why don't I say this more often? Both festivals are in the top 100 best reviewed list on Film Freeway. Out of 12,000 festivals in the world, these 2 festivals that I'm associated with are both in the top 100 best reviewed. So, golf clap for me. And
that's good numbers, and I'm a math guy, so
that's 0.0. Yeah, I don't know what percentage.
Small,
teeny tiny. So that's Film Invasion LA, and if you truly love, knock on wood, Film Invasion Peru is coming.
Ooh.
In 2026.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and there might be an Arizona Film Invasion.
Very cool.
I won't name the city to not put pressure, but I've actually met with the people at the Board of Tourism for that town in Arizona, and because I'm friends with one, and he wants a film invasion in town.
Nice.
That'd be cool.
That'd be great.
I just have to find people to help run it. But so anyway, all right. So that's that. Mike, Matt, thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
back.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here in person. It's always better to be in person than Zoom, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.